So while you manage the risk and you also take the advantage of cost arbitrage, still the value component gets missed in this entire thing because the commitment of the resources which come from the vendor is only to the extent of billing hours and not beyond that, right? So how do you see this entire model getting evolved in, let's say, another 12 to 24 months from now? And I guess my question is to Paul, that as a consultant, what is the direction that you give it to your clients in terms of moving in this area where you manage the risk, you control the risk, and at the same time you also get the value from the vendors?
Yeah, I think I can probably best answer that. I don't think we have a one answer fits all in terms of advice for that. We do, particularly for the financial services, you're absolutely right. What we find, however, is that clients are tending to start with a captive operation for all the risk mitigation strategies and risk control and all the regulatory issues that they face. They wanting to achieve some level of cost efficiencies will start out with a captive type solution. And then over time, they grow in comfort with the local capabilities of the market that they happen to be in and start then to transition to more of a hybrid model. But they tend to also retain certain key functions and control, so it never becomes a purely outsourced operation. But that's how we see as particularly financial services companies with quite large scale, where the suppliers in the market for that perceived risk cannot really offer them that much better of a price anyway. Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other opinions on that?
I do have.
I thought you might.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Vineet, I think definitely, of course, the model will happen because the financial institutions will want to progress that way. I think by and large, the largest of the financial institutions would want to retain the control, and then I think that's the only model that can work for them. I think the question would be on the other side is, on the supplier side, is on an ongoing basis, how much innovation does that leave the supplier with? And what kind of accountability does the supplier have given the room that he's been given, to run the show? And that probably at some point of time will plateau out and will probably go to a decline, and therefore you may see an exit of some of the maybe more matured suppliers in that space, and then you have to look up to maybe more staffing oriented companies to provide that. That's what would be my feeling about it.
Along the same line, exact point. I'm like, if you don't give enough scope where you are not allowing innovation, you won't see that you are getting true value for the money. You can get the resource, but how do you really go out and really use that resource? The growth path that you're going to show that to that resource out there is if you're going to just say, hey, just watch the device for me for the next 8 hours. That's exactly what you're going to get. Unless you go out and have that model where you can probably be in that captive model, but at the same time go out and give them that growth path, where you go out and have those delivery targets for them. I think you have to go out and make sure that you give them those delivery targets so that you're utilizing your resources not just for those 8 hours, but more than 8 hours.
And I think just a final wrap up. I think those observations are absolutely correct. The missing component, though, is that you really probably don't take the relationship in a vacuum. So that a company of scale may choose to have a hybrid model with maybe not as much as they would in a purely outsourced model, but are also leveraging those partnerships in many, many other areas of the business, so that you start to achieve, at least from a business relationship standpoint, some critical mass with your partners, so that they're willing to help bring that innovation in. So there's a couple of questions here. I don't know where the microphone is. Oh, there.
My name is Manjari. I work for IBM. Mm-hmm. My question to you was to understand what are the clients' mindset that you perceive within the infrastructure space? Because given the high growth, I would yet consider it as a very nascent market. There are very few companies, for example, who are ITIL compliant. So where do you see the industry growing, and how mature are we within the infrastructure space? And secondly, within the infra space, which are the areas that you see of growth? Is it data center, command center, monitoring, or network security, or just IT help desk?
I could take a shot.
Sure.
From a customer perspective, I've seen multiple customers do it different ways, and some actually just take. But this is not. Some do one portion of it, and some actually do the whole thing. They just say, I'm just giving it to one vendor. He does my help desk, my service support, everything together. Some, even within that space, they take a different approach. They say, I take level 1, level 2 of one particular support and transition that, see how it does, and then look at transitioning level 3. And what some customers have also done is they keep some portion of the knowledge internal, so that even though vendors cycle, and as you go, like if you go for a 5-year contract, things don't work out, you go from one vendor to another, they keep some key portions of the knowledge internal, so that even though the cycling happens, you're able to kind of go back and keep the continuity over there from one vendor to another. But that's the high-level knowledge in that area is kept internal in some cases. So multiple customers have different comfort levels and how they want to go out and do things, and they have different ways of approaching the risk that is involved. So there's no one straight answer on which is actually doing really well. And ITIL compliance is becoming very important with a lot of the regulations and things coming in. Makes it just easier to meet a lot of the compliance requirements. So yeah, there's no one single straight answer on which way to approach it. It's just different companies do it differently.
I'm not sure if my first question got answered. Maybe I'd like Swapan to address that. Why don't we hear mega deals being given to Indian vendors? I mean, is the client not ready, or are the Indian providers not ready to take on that scale or that magnitude?
I think, I think I need to talk to you offline, because then I can run you through, a presentation that shows all the mega deals that have happened. I can't announce all of them because you have disclosure restrictions, but the two big deals that are known, I must share that with you, and you could then probably have the answer to your question. And you would have heard of a deal called Dixon's in Europe. I don't know if you're aware that half of the deal is infrastructure. HCL today manages the entire retail IT infrastructure of Dixon's. The other one that I can talk about is Autodesk, where HCL runs the complete infrastructure, not only the infrastructure, it's a total integrated deal, right from the application, which is SAP and Siebel, up to all the servers, all the databases that lie underneath that. So you're absolutely right. I think the market is still nascent. It is not at the maturity one would expect it to have or one would want to have, but it's very, very fast moving towards that. I mean, the pace can be judged from the fact that in less than 3 years, it's moved from doing a selective outsource of one, let's say just the servers or just the mailbox or just the desktops, to a totally integrated deal. And there are quite a few more which I can't publicly disclose. So I think that's where it stands. And I'd just like to add to the other point which you said about which areas are growing. I think the data center space, I mean, everything that fits into the data center is the big ticket, is what is really growing. So from the servers to the databases to the middleware to the mainframe, the network, the security, those are things which are really growing. The end user side is not at that fast a pace for possibly reasons of cultural integration, etc. There's a lot of front-facing work that needs to be done on the desktop side, which is possibly what holds it back.